Hello, I am excited. These segment of videos that I am currently doing right now are called Walking with Jesus. And they're called that because that's exactly what is happening. I did not recognize it at first, but the Lord quickly um, made that clear. And so these are called Walking with Jesus. I have another section, and those are called Priceless Pearls, and those are testimonies of my hospice patients. And it's called Priceless Pearls because you can't put a price on the experience, the encounters, the beautiful things that the Holy Spirit has done in those testimonies. And then someday that's going to be a book, someday soon. So I don't know if this is going to be a book as well, but I'm just doing my part, being obedient and recording the videos because this is God's ministry, not mine. I'm just a willing vessel, and I need to be obedient and do what it is that He tells me to do. So today, I'm going to be sharing with you a testimony that is called, Am I Here for You? Now, in this testimony, I was finished driving, I was finished with a patient of mine in one little small town, and I needed to drive to another town. And it was probably about 35 minutes away. And I had an appointment at the end of the day, but the the time that the person got out of work was probably like 2 hours. So I was going to have 2 hours once I got to this other town, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my time. At the time that this testimony was taking place, my air conditioning in my car was not working that well. I had two vents, which were on the driver's side, that blew warm air, and the other two blew cold air. But when the car sat idling or sat in park, it would pretty much just blow warm air. The temperatures are very high, very hot, and so I was a little concerned because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, where I was going to go, and I also had to go to the restroom, and I don't like using convenience store restrooms. I'm a chaplain. I work with hospice patients, so I travel a lot, and I love it. I love my job. I've been doing this for almost 4 years, and God is the one that gave me my job, and I don't take my job lightly. So I get done with this appointment that I'm at. I need to go to that other little town, and so I start driving over there. And then all of a sudden I remember that I know somebody that has a church where I'm going, but I wasn't sure about the name of it. And so I already have my GPS set. I have it set for the location of a Walmart in that small town. And I just mainly had it set because sometimes I get distracted by worshiping, get distracted by maybe phone calls that I'll have. And so at least I can hear the GPS telling me, the street names or exits or what the distance is, from one place to another. And so it'll keep me on track. So at the time that I have the GPS set for the Walmart, I decided, you know what, I'm going to look up churches in that little town. And so I looked up churches, and so it brought up 3. And then it gave me an option if I wanted to reroute. And so I dismissed it. I said no. So it's set for the location of the Walmart. So shortly down the road, there's a song that comes on the radio, and the name of this song is Church. And some of the words are, I want to go to church. And at first I didn't really think anything of it. And I kind of sing along with it a little bit. And then the next song that came on is a song called See a Victory. The first song, Church is by Cochran and Company. The next one, See a Victory, is by Elevation Worship. And I know this song very well. And so I was singing it, and I really wasn't thinking too much of it. I was just worshiping the Lord, just agreeing with the words, and just decreeing and declaring that I was going to see a victory, and especially for the appointment that I had at the end of that day. So I happened to look at my GPS. My GPS says, Praise Victory Church, 7 minutes. And I thought, okay, I dismissed this. Why is it still on there? And then all of a sudden it hit me. The words from the first song said, I want to go to church. Now, the second song that I'm singing along with, it's See a Victory. And then on my GPS, it says Praise Victory Church, and it says 7 minutes away. So I understood clearly. Many times God speaks in so many different ways, and they can be strange to those that don't understand. But I'm having to learn how he speaks different ways, different things, and even though it makes no sense, just as this testimony I'm sharing with you makes no sense. I've had many things happen that did not make sense, but this one was really strange for me. So I said, no, Lord, I really have to go to the bathroom. And so my head, I was thinking, I am going to the Walmart to go to the restroom. But I knew God had other plans because I could feel it tugging at my heart. And so as I was grumbling some, I said, all right. So I start driving in the direction of Praise Victory Church. Now, I've never been there before. And I started thinking to myself, I know that this place probably isn't even open because it was on a weekday. And the time of day that it was, I'm in ministry. So I pretty much know there's things that are familiar and there's things that are just not familiar. And so as I'm driving to this church, I'm thinking it's probably not even open. And this makes no sense. But out of obedience, I'm doing it. So I drive over there. Sure enough, I drive into the parking lot, and I see a truck there, and there's nothing else. Actually, the sign caused me to wonder if the church was even open because the sign has some damage to it, and so I wasn't sure. It felt like nobody was there. It just felt like, I don't know, it was abandoned, closed, something. So I sat there in my car and I thought, Lord, I really have to go to the restroom. And it's hot. But out of obedience, I got out of the car and I walked over to the front door. And as I'm walking up to the front door, I can clearly see that it's locked. But out of obedience, I still knocked on a locked door. Now, some of you, you're probably saying, that makes no sense. That's just plain silly. It is. But again, I said out of obedience. So, of course, nobody answered the door. So I stood there for a moment and I thought, if I go sit back in the car, it's going to be even warmer. So what am I going to do now? So I saw that there were 4 benches. So I picked a bench and I sat down on it. And as soon as I sat down on the bench, I looked down because I had straddled it when I sat down. And when I looked down to my right-hand side, I saw that there was a vine that was right there along the sidewalk or along the concrete, and it had heart-shaped leaves on it. Now, God speaks to me in signs, like I said, and I've learned to recognize some and understand pretty much what each sign means, but I have to be careful with that because it may not mean the same thing every single time. So I have to listen to the Lord on what he's saying. And then I looked around the area and I saw the vine. I followed the vine where it was growing from, and it was just really pretty. There was all these hearts that were hanging there, and so I just told the Lord, I said, I understand. I see a vine. I know we are to stay connected to the vine. As a matter of fact, I just did a chapter for a book. I just became a co-author. Never have done this before, and so I just became a co-author, and I wrote a chapter for a book that I was invited to write for. And the name of the book is Clinging to the Vine. And the name of the chapter that I wrote was Learning to Cling. So a lot of times there are things that we do and then we have to put into practice. So I have to stay connected to the vine. Here I see the signs. I see the confirmation of what God is telling me to do, and I know I'm in the right place, even though there's no one there, and it makes no sense to me. So the wind is blowing, but it's kind of warm because it is summertime, right in the middle of summer, and so it's not kind of warm, it's hot. Anyways, the breeze is blowing, and it's a good steady breeze, but it's still hot. And so I thought to myself, it would be nice if it was a cool breeze. All of a sudden, that's what God does. He loves suddenlies. All of a sudden, the wind started blowing cooler. And so I thanked the Lord for that. And so I sat down and I opened up my notebook, which I have a notebook that keeps track of things. I always have to keep track of things because He's always giving me testimonies, or doing something that I don't know, or He does a new thing, and so I have to record it because He might do several things in the same day, and I don't want to miss anything. So I sat down and I started writing out song, the title of the song, the lyrics, the name of the church, the 7 minutes, and then I wrote down, out of obedience, I knocked on the obvious locked door. I looked around and sat down on a bench in the shade. The first thing I see is a vine with heart-shaped leaves. There is a breeze blowing. I asked for a cooler breeze, just in my thoughts, and I left it at that. So I sit there for 45 minutes to an hour. And after a short period of time of sitting there, maybe 10 minutes or so, the urge to have to go to the restroom went away. And so I thank the Lord for that. Then, as I'm sitting there 45 minutes to an hour, I just focused on Him. I asked Him why I was there, but so I wouldn't be annoyed by anything. I wouldn't let my own human thoughts run away with me. I decided that I would just worship Him and just pray in the Spirit, just pray in tongues, because the Holy Spirit knew why I was there. And so the Holy Spirit would be speaking through me as I prayed in tongues. So 45 minutes to an hour goes by, and all of a sudden this truck drives up and parks right in front of me where I'm sitting. This lady gets out of the vehicle, and she asked me, "Are you here for the conference?" And I said, no, I didn't know that there was a conference going on. And she says, "Well, can I help you with something?" And I said, I don't know. I said, "I'm going to ask you, am I here for you?" I said, "I know I'm here for a reason, but I don't know what that reason is yet." And so she looks at me kind of strange. And I said, "I need to ask you something." I said, "Do you believe that God speaks to us and tells us to do things that just don't make sense? And He also gives us signs that only we understand. Not everybody understands them." She started laughing and she said, "Yes." I said, "Good, because I have a story for you." So I grabbed my notebook and I show her. And I explained, as I explained in the beginning, about the song, "I Want to Go to Church," about the next song, "Sea of Victory," about how Praise Victory Church, the 7 minutes, was highlighted to me on the GPS, even after I had told it to dismiss it. And I read to her what I had just written down about out of obedience, how I knocked on the obvious locked door. And after that, I said, so I'm going to ask you again, am I here for you? She says, I don't know. And I said, okay. I said, I'm a chaplain. I work with hospice. And she says, hospice? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, she says, I had a daughter that passed away 2 years ago because of COVID. She says, and I was upset because I wasn't able to be there with her. She was in the hospital and she passed away by herself. I couldn't be there. She says, and I was upset and I was asking God, why? Here I do whatever you ask me to do. I do everything for you, but yet this happens. Why? Why did you let this happen? This makes no sense. I'm not understanding. She was hurt. She was upset. Not necessarily with him, but just out of human emotions, and didn't understand. So in that moment, it became very clear as to why I was there, why I waited for 45 minutes to an hour. The reason was because she ended up being the pastor of this church. And regardless if she was the pastor or not, in this case, it's because God wanted to speak to her and minister to her heart, answer some of her questions, and bring her some peace. But regardless if it's a pastor or not, God still meets you. He still answers you. When we cry out and say, God, why? Why did this happen? God, why am I going through this? And if we really want to know the answer, He gives us the answers. It's just that sometimes we don't understand or we don't like the answer, and so we'll reject it. In this case, that's not what happened. In this case, I didn't know at the time that I'm ministering to her and praying over her that she is the pastor of that church. So I understood that the reason I was sent there was because Jesus wanted to touch her. He wanted to minister to her heart. She had some things in her heart that she wanted to release, that she needed some healing, she needed some clarification. And so He spoke through me. I'm just His mouthpiece. He does this with several people. It's just up to us whether we choose to grow with Him in that way, because I'm nobody special. Neither are any of the other people that do this either. But we just choose to allow Him to use us in that way. And even though it doesn't make sense, we don't lean to our own human understanding and try to reason it out. Imagine if I would have left. I wouldn't have this testimony to share. I wouldn't have the joy in my heart. I wouldn't have the growth in my faith. When I was done ministering to her, praying with her, then that's when she told me who she was. And she invited me into the church from cancer. She had cancer in her body, and the Lord healed her, supernaturally healed her. It was beautiful to hear. It was awesome, because just the day before, which I did another video, there was a 91-year-old man that shared testimony with me of how Jesus healed him, that there was no other explanation for the way he received his healing. And so here we are the following day, and now I'm having this encounter with this pastor. It was incredible. So I walked away from there thinking to myself, okay, Lord, this is awesome that you are sharing these testimonies with me, the one from the previous day and now today, but I'm missing it. I'm still missing it. What is it? What am I missing? Because I was feeling something inside that I knew I was missing something. It wasn't just to encourage me. So I went to the convenience store at the corner, and as I was coming out of there, all of a sudden I threw my hands up and I said, oh, I get it. I understand now. This is Jesus. This is what it's all about. And then I understood within myself, once that revelation happened, that I needed to, this was going to be the next set of videos. I had told my daughter back probably about 2 months prior to this. I said, I don't know exactly what this means, how it's going to look, but I know that I need to get to know Jesus better. I know him through his word. I know him through a few experiences, both personal and through other people. But he wants me to know something deeper. He wants to show me something. And I didn't know exactly what that was, what it was going to look like, how it was going to happen. But then here we are. So walking with Jesus, these are going to be testimonies of how Jesus is introducing me to different people and what he has done in their lives. So I pray that this has blessed you. I pray that if you are encouraged by this, that you share it. Share it with other people. So many times we share all the negative things, or we will share all those things that the news puts out, and we think we're informing people, but sometimes we're actually discouraging them. Share good things of what God has done. Testimonies and good things are not always on the news. It's very rare that you'll actually hear something about what God is doing. They should create a channel that talks about what God has done and encourage people, the excitement that builds within us, knowing that God is still working. Jesus is still walking on this earth. He's still here with us. He's still, we know that the Holy Spirit lives within us. We know that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, that they're considered the Holy Trinity. They're or called the Godhead. But we also know that they're individual as well, because I know the Holy Spirit. I know the Holy Spirit intimately. Probably not, I won't ever get the full measure until I finally pass. But I know him enough right now that for the past 4 years, I've had to cling to him. I've had to listen to every instruction he has given me to do the job that I do. Without him, I can't do the job. And he instructs me, he tells me what it is that people need, how they're hurting, how to pray for them, how to connect with them. It's just been amazing. So now, walking with Jesus, I'm excited about this because it's a new adventure. And so I pray that this has encouraged you and that you will continue to join me for the rest of these so that you can get to know Jesus through the testimonies as well. And you will definitely grow in relationship with him. Many blessings.